Well, like you say eloquently, it's been one challenge after the other for the global shipping business. We've had COVID, the great disruptions in ports that happened there. We led to a hyperinflationary period. After that, there was a shortage of manpower, a backlog of issues in ports. But then after that, there were wars, not only in Ukraine, but the Middle East, and a blockage of the Suez Canal. All of this has just created issue after issue for the shipping industries, which are still very much with us right now at the moment.
I was just reading there a report that we had on CNBC around, perhaps the lack of interest in people working for the shipping industry. Are you also seeing that?
Well, shipping traditionally is a sector that is hard to gain employment in just because of the nature of the work. It is tough. You can imagine seafarers, people away from their families for 3 to 6 months a year on any one contract. So it was difficult anyway to find labor. Coupled in with inflation, coupled in with the supply shocks, it's been one of the sectors that has been most badly hit by the shortage of labor. And I don't think that's something that's very visible to the wider markets and what that can do to supply chain disruptions as well.
Are you preparing for even worse times in the following years, now that we also have heard from President-elect announcing new tariffs on several countries? Is this likely to make supply chains even more complicated, do you think?
Supply chains will face challenges as a result of new policies from the President-elect. Just to be clear, the change will change international trade, especially if there are regional or zonal trading blocks. The maritime industry is best suited to international free trade, where there are large commodity flows between large nations based on comparative advantages and the classic Ricardian theories around trade. Change that, things will disrupt, and the supply chains that were set up for a historical world trade will also have to be different. And those things take time to respond to. It's not something that happens overnight.
So should consumers therefore expect higher prices inevitably?
Consumers, unfortunately, will experience inflationary pressures that they have been experiencing for the last couple of years. That will continue. Obviously, people in the maritime industry and firms like myself will work hard to combat those and deliver the efficiencies that people deserve through optimized supply chains.
Unfortunately, not good news there for consumers across the world. But I would like to zoom in on some of the tasks of your business. I understand one of the main aspects of the business is actually ensuring rice supplies across Africa. How is that going, particularly at a time when we're approaching Christmas and New Year, which seems to be an important season for rice consumption?
It is an exceptionally important season for rice consumption. We will be supplying one of the first direct rice shipments into Nigeria for a long time. There's been a change in government policy, so we have vessels underway to Nigeria in time for Christmas to deliver to the local market there. I was today actually negotiating a shipment to go to Senegal, and unfortunately, despite the positive news with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the owners were absolutely adamant not to cross the Suez Canal. So unfortunately, it's impossible still to deliver rice quickly to the outer regions of West Africa. But we hope that will change over the next couple of months.
It's not an easy picture at this stage, because I was also reading on, for instance, supply chains for tea, coffee, chocolate and olive oil. They're all facing struggles at this stage. But I have a broader question for you, which is what needs to be done really to actually ensure food security going forward?
The ideal wish list, if that's anything that we can wish for, would be stable and consistent markets. And everyone needs time to adjust. You have to imagine a firm like myself, we make $1 million investments into, say, bagging equipment in West Africa. You can't really do that unless you have a 3 or 4 year time horizon to make sure those things can work. Stable markets, stable policies are absolutely fundamental. The free market and the private sector will adjust accordingly to make sure that things are priced in the best way for consumers.
Yeah, however, it just doesn't seem that we are at that point, given everything you've just said throughout the interview. Perhaps more broadly, I would like to also understand your thoughts on London as a market for the shipping industry. I believe you are actually quite bullish on what London could represent, could be. Tell us more about that.
Well, I feel that West Africa in particular right now is on the cusp of a mini industrial revolution. It has great growth prospects. It has a young and burgeoning population. To make these places successful, you need good capital markets. London is a place with the right infrastructure, the right legal setup, the right insurance setup, and it's absolutely a place and a vehicle in which capital can be raised and lead to kind of growth in the traditional global south. So I'm absolutely keen and optimistic on London being that place for the next 20 years.